Welcome to my kidney transplant journey. I'm going to take you from onset of sickness to my transplant recovery. As I sit here, I am 3 weeks post-transplant and doing quite well. All of my renal function labs have come into line, and I'm feeling better than I have in over a year. Before I go any further though, I do want to give a shout out to fellow YouTuber Dawn Raven. Dawn, I watched all of your videos throughout my journey, and I have to say that they were of tremendous help. Your support and your courage to put your story out there for the kidney disease community is it's outstanding, and I want to thank you for that. This is going to be a story of perseverance and courage, and eventually my road to redemption. My name is Steve, and I invite you to come on with me on this journey. And now for a little bit of my history. I was born May 27, 1972 in Waterloo, Iowa, and unfortunately, genes were not on my side. At age 2, I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, specifically gene mutation DF508 homozygous. I never let this slow me down, and early on my parents got me involved in sports. They knew that this was a great way to keep my lungs exercised and healthy. As a kid, I was involved in a lot of sports, but my primary sport was swimming. Early on, I swam for the Waterloo Sharks and eventually swam in high school for Central High School first, and then West High School, where I was a state qualifier. I then went on to swim for the University of Northern Iowa, where I was a letter winner, and I was very proud of that. Throughout life, I did play a lot of different sports to keep myself in shape. I played softball, volleyball, tennis, and I was really into bodybuilding. In bodybuilding and powerlifting, at age 33, I was second in the state in bench press, benching 300 pounds while only weighing 145. I was always known for being in shape, and this defined me. My sickness, well, it just didn't. Now at age 30, I was diagnosed with diabetes, which 50% of patients who have cystic fibrosis end up with. I had a lot of struggles with that early on, with severe highs and severe lows, and it was hard to control, quite honestly. But in 2013, I was introduced to the Dexcom system, which is a continuous glucose monitor. And this really helped bring things in line for me. I went from having a hemoglobin A1C of 8 to 9 down to below 6, and I've maintained a 6 or better for the last 10 years. However, my kidney function began to decline in 2020. A biopsy in 2021 showed that diabetes and autoimmune functions had severely limited my kidney function. My body took a beating over those years, and I suffered from that. Fast forward to May of 2022. On a Friday, I began to feel symptoms of COVID, so I went to urgent care to be tested. Out of an abundance of caution, they put me on antibiotics. And I was okay over the weekend, but on Monday, I received a call from the hospital telling me that I needed to report to the ER immediately because I had dangerously high levels of potassium and dangerously low levels of hemoglobin. A coworker, Tony Bixby, drove me to Allen Hospital and I ended up spending 4 days in inpatient. One of those being my 50th birthday. What a great way to celebrate a landmark event like that, being in an old hospital room. Fast forward to October. While waiting to be vetted, my GFR bottomed out, going from 29 to 9 in just 2 months. GFR is basically a measure of how well your kidneys are filtering your blood, and mine were really not doing all that well. My labs went haywire, and I was losing all my protein through urine. So Dr. Dowd said that it was now time for dialysis. I was sent to general surgery to have an access port installed on October 21st. The access port was installed just below my collarbone, and then a tube ran up my neck and then down directly into my heart. Talk about scary. This was all becoming real at this time. My first dialysis appointment was the very next day, October 22nd, and I had to go 3 times a week for 3-hour sessions from 6 to 9 a.m. I had no choice if I wanted to live. I had been sick every day for a year, and this was the only way to stay alive. And I quite honestly was depressed and very, very scared. I began to question myself. I'm not sick. I don't belong here. How did I get here, and what did I do? It was a time of self-loathing and introspection, and I had a lot on my mind every single day, and it wore on me. Thankfully, I had a lot of support from family, friends, and coworkers, and I want all of you to know that that meant more to me than any of you will ever know. It was just overwhelming, the amount of support that I received from everyone. Dialysis tested me, it really did. Every single time my legs were restless and I cramped up a lot. A lot of times it took everything that I had not to cry or want to flee that place. If anything, it taught me a lot about mental fortitude, but it took time. Every single day was a struggle. Now fast forward to January 6th, I had been in dialysis treatments, from late October until January at this point. And it was a struggle. I just can't even convey how much I went through during that time. Now the Transplant Center thankfully called on January 6th, and they said that it's time to come in to sign paperwork for the national exchange. So Tom and I drove down to Des Moines, and we arrived at the Transplant Center to talk with our coordinator. Now Tom was not a direct match for me, but we had the option to do a paired exchange, which means that they find a match for me and they find a match for Tom, and it's basically a trade. All 4 of us go into the hospital the same week, and my donor gives a kidney to me, and Tom gives a kidney to someone else in need. It's an even trade. So when we arrived in Des Moines, what I didn't know, and Tom did, was that Angie, the coordinator, already had a match pair set up for us. So I thought we were just signing paperwork and we were going to be on a waiting list for God knows how long. But she already had that pair set up for us, and she had the surgery scheduled for February 20th. I can't even begin to describe the rush of emotion that came over me. This was now real, and there was light at the end of the tunnel. I actually shed a tear because I had renewed hope, and it was all becoming real. Tom and I left that place feeling happy and excited, and quite honestly, I had not felt that in months. That light at the end of the tunnel was shining brightly for me, and the countdown was on. I had 18 dialysis sessions left, and I knew it was going to be a struggle, but I had to get through it somehow. And knowing that a change was on the horizon, that made it much, much easier. February 20th was still a long ways away. I had deteriorated even more, even on a daily basis. I lost all the muscle I had worked so hard for, and I had difficulty walking in January and February. Leg weakness caused me to fall a few times, because if I stumbled at all, I didn't have enough leg strength to recover from it. It was incredibly demoralizing and very embarrassing to me. I knew what I once was, and what I had become was, quite honestly, something that I loathed. This was a version of my life that I never thought I would have to live. Finally, February 19th arrived. I'm going to cut to some video I shot in a hotel room the night before the surgery to give you some insight on what was going through my mind at the time. Well, here I am at the Holiday Inn Express in Des Moines the night before my transplant. It's hard to say what I'm thinking. I just feel really calm right now. Not a lot going on upstairs, which is good in a way, I guess. I know I got a long road ahead of me in terms of recovery, but I have confidence that everything's going to go just fine, and I guess try and get a good night's sleep, and we'll see what everything holds in the morning. The plan is to arrive at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning, and then I'll probably be in surgery from 11 o'clock until, I say, 1:30 or 2. It's supposed to be a 2 to 3 hour procedure. And then in recovery after that. They expect to have me up and walking that night. That's the expectation anyway. We'll just have to see how I do with the pain tolerance. So I'm going to try and get a good night's sleep. It's only 7 o'clock right now, so it's a little early, but 4 o'clock in the morning is going to come really fast for me. So try and get some sleep as best I can, and it's out of my hands now. It's in the hands of some trusted professionals at Unity Point, and I know I've got a lot of people pulling for me and praying for me. So I've got a lot of good people in my corner right now. So I feel as good as I possibly can. I say that now, and then I know how much pain I'm going to be in tomorrow, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Right now there's no more dialysis, which is a godsend. That was the toughest 4 months of my life, quite honestly. But anyway, as they always say, I know it sounds cliche, but I'm going to come out of this a lot stronger. I'm going to make sure I take care of that kidney, keep on top of all the medications and everything, and just do my best to get back to the former version of myself, which I miss so much. So, good night, everybody, and thanks for all your support. Well, it's 5 in the morning, and here we go, off to the transplant center. It's my last day struggling with a bad kidney, so wish me luck. Surgery went wonderfully. One of the things I remember the most about the surgery was a nurse that held my hand from the moment I was wheeled into the operating room to when I fell asleep under anesthesia. This simple act of kindness let me know that I would be okay. And I will never forget that nurse. Now, when I woke up, I felt a lot different. I felt warm and comfortable, and my blood chemistry was changing. This may sound a little bit weird, but my catheter bag was filling up with yellow pee on a continuous basis, which was great to see for me, because I knew that meant my kidney was filtering my blood the way it should, and it was going to change the way I feel. My GFR went from 9 to 99 within days. That meant the kidney picked right up where it left off, and I could really feel it working, as weird as that sounds. Despite the pain, I felt better than I had in well over a year, and it was just amazing. It was a night and day difference, and I can't even describe what that was like, going from extremely low to now feeling like I once did. It was just amazing. I was discharged from the hospital on February 24th, and I stayed for the next week with my loving parents. I think my mom enjoyed that quite a bit because she was able to wait on me hand and foot, and she made sure I was well fed. She is still a great cook and always has been. It was the best eating I had had in months because, quite honestly, while I was sick, I didn't even want to eat at times, and nothing sounded good. I had to basically force myself to eat just to maintain somewhat of my weight. I actually enjoyed eating now, and that was very unlike the months prior, and things actually tasted good. I immediately formulated a plan for my comeback, which I'll put into motion when I have clearance from the surgeon. I'm going to get back to the way I was and living a version of my life that I love, not a version that I despised. My new mantra is, I'm back, baby. Now, as far as post-surgery goes, I have labs twice a week at Ellen Hospital, and then I have weekly visits in Des Moines to make sure that things are staying the course. This will eventually change to every 3 months for a while. Now, this is what my medication regimen looks like. I take upwards of 30 pills a day right now, and this will eventually pare down to just a few, but My main thing is I'm going to own this process. It's very, very important that these are taken religiously every 12 hours. And I need to make sure that I stick to that regimen. And I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I do. I owe it to myself and I owe it to the donors to keep this thing alive. And I promise you that I am going to do everything I can to make that kidney live. Now I just want to take a moment to share one negative experience I had post-surgery. And that was the removal of the access port for dialysis, which was installed in my chest near the collarbone. For that, I was given a local anesthetic at the surgery point, and the doctor came in and said that we're just going to yank this out and it should take about 5 minutes. Unfortunately, some fibrous tissue had attached itself to the tube that was in my neck, and so it took 15 minutes of tugging and tugging to get that thing out of my neck and heart. And it was the worst experience I've ever had, and I can't believe I didn't pass out. I could actually feel that fibrous tissue tearing away in my neck, and it felt like that access port area was just mangled. But eventually it did come out, with much to my relief, and the surgery point was not in bad shape at all. And as a matter of fact, it's just a little tiny spot on my chest now. So I was very thankful about that. And I definitely don't blame the doctor. I mean, it had been in there for 4 months, and so that fibrous tissue had attached to it. There's just really nothing that can be done. You just have to tough it out and let that thing come out on its own. But it was a very challenging experience, and I'm surprised I don't have a little bit of PTSD because of that. That was very trying. So in closing, I want to thank everyone who supported me. You all know who you are. I promise to continue the fight and get back to the life I once knew. It sounds cliche, but I am stronger because of this, and the journey really did test me. Take care of yourselves, and I wish you good health. Thanks for watching.